They called her non-essential. That's what the termination email said. The kind of phrase that sounds clean until it stains your whole life. But Mary wasn't the type to vanish quietly into an HR memo. She'd built the company's data system from scratch. Every number, every password, every hidden audit trail. So when her new boss tried to erase her name and take the credit, she didn't scream. She smiled. Because she knew the system better than anyone. And it was about to turn on him. The morning it happened, the office smelled like burnt coffee and panic. Budget cuts, they said. Restructuring. That corporate lullaby everyone hums before someone gets axed. Mary had been in finance for 8 years, long enough to know when a firing wasn't about cost but control. And when HR called her into that glass fishbowl of a conference room, she already knew whose fingerprints were on the knife. Camille Porter, the new chief financial officer, all confidence, veneers, and weaponized PowerPoint decks. She'd been in the company for barely 6 months, and had already made it her mission to streamline inefficiencies. Translation. Remove anyone who knew how things really worked. Mary sat there while HR recited phrases that probably came preloaded on a corporate template. Appreciate your service. Hard decision. Effective immediately. She didn't cry. Didn't argue. She just watched Camille standing by the door, pretending to check her phone, smiling like she'd already moved on to her next meeting. But Camille made one mistake. She underestimated what Mary actually built. The company's data architecture wasn't just numbers and formulas. Mary had designed it as a living organism. Every report, every transaction, every deleted file, all stored, cross-linked, and quietly timestamped under her encrypted framework. So when they told her she had 30 minutes to clear her desk, Mary didn't panic. She copied one small folder to a USB drive. Nothing fancy, just labeled archives. Then she walked out head high, knowing something Camille didn't. The system didn't just store data. It watched. And when the wrong hands tried to manipulate it, it reacted. And Camille was about to find out exactly what happens when you fire the person who built the machine. 2 weeks later, Mary's inbox was quiet, eerily quiet. No Slack pings, no meeting invites, no crisis calls at 10 p.m. For the first time in years, her brain wasn't running on caffeine and anxiety. But peace wasn't what she wanted. Justice was. Camille, meanwhile, was thriving, at least on the surface. Her name was suddenly on internal memos, quarterly briefings, even a Forbes feature titled, "The Woman Who Transformed FinTech Corp's Future." Mary read that one twice, not out of disbelief, but out of disgust. Every chart, every success metric Camille was bragging about came from the system Mary had coded, audited, and secured. But that was the beauty of it. The system didn't just process data, it logged everything. Every unauthorized edit, every altered number, every manipulated report. It was designed to leave a trail invisible to the naked eye, unless you knew where to look. So Mary started watching. Quietly. From home. Her admin credentials were technically revoked, but her shadow access? Still alive. Hidden deep in the architecture. Masked under a dummy process no one had ever bothered to check. And that's when she saw it. Camille had started optimizing numbers. Inflated profit reports. Altered tax documentation. Shifting expenses to non-existent vendors. She wasn't just taking credit. She was cooking the books. Mary knew she had 2 choices. Expose Camille immediately, or let the system collect everything. She chose the latter. Because Camille wasn't just going to lose her job. She was going to lose everything. Credibility, reputation, and the shiny empire she'd built on someone else's code. And when the time came, Mary wouldn't even need to lift a finger. The system she built would speak for her. By the end of the quarter, Camille was a star. The board called her a visionary. Investors toasted her strategic brilliance. And her LinkedIn was practically glowing. Every report she presented looked flawless. Too flawless. But Mary knew what real numbers looked like. Numbers were messy, unpredictable, human. These looked engineered. Fabricated. So one night, Mary decided to test something. She logged into a backdoor she'd built years ago. A diagnostic function meant only for emergencies. One command line later, the system unfolded before her like a digital spiderweb. And there it was. Camille's digital fingerprints, smudged across every falsified report. Mary set an automated trigger. Something simple but lethal. If any more data was tampered with, the system would initiate a full integrity check and flag every inconsistency directly to the company's external auditors. Not IT. Not finance. The auditors. Then she waited. Camille's greed was predictable. Within a week, she uploaded her next Q4 miracle. The trigger fired silently. No alarms. No pop-ups. Just a timed upload to 3 offsite servers, all tied to the company's regulatory compliance inboxes. 2 days later, chaos. It started with whispers, emails from compliance, unusual audit requests, a sudden cancellation of Camille's investor meeting. Then came the emergency board meeting. Mary watched the live ticker on her phone. Fintech Corp under investigation for financial irregularities. She didn't smile. Not yet. She just brewed another cup of coffee, opened the same laptop she'd coded her system on, and waited. Because she knew this wasn't over. The system had only revealed the first layer. Camille still thought she could talk her way out, blame a junior staffer, or a software glitch. But the system didn't lie. And Mary was far from done watching. Camille walked into the boardroom like she was walking into a courtroom. And in a way, she was. Every executive was already seated, faces tight, voices low. The CFO chair, once her throne, suddenly felt like a trap. The head of compliance slid a folder across the table. "We've received some troubling reports," he said. Camille flipped through the pages. Profit discrepancies, duplicate vendors, altered audit logs. Her own name stamped across every change. She forced a smile. "This must be a systems issue," she said smoothly. "Probably residual code from the old database." Old database. Mary's database. The irony wasn't lost on her. While Camille stammered through excuses, Mary sat in a cafe 2 blocks away, streaming the closed-door meeting through a security feed she'd quietly embedded years ago during a risk audit. It wasn't illegal, not exactly. Just thorough. Camille's voice was rising now. "I didn't authorize these changes. Someone tampered with my access." The head of IT interrupted. "We checked. The logs are clear. All changes came from your account, your device, your credentials." Camille froze. She'd been meticulous, or so she thought. But Mary's system didn't just log what happened. It logged how it happened. Every keystroke. Every timestamp. Every falsified entry preserved like a fossil. The CEO leaned back. "Camille, we'll be placing you on immediate leave pending investigation." Camille opened her mouth, then closed it again. There was no script for this. No spin. Across town, Mary closed her laptop. The system had done exactly what it was designed to do, reveal the truth. For years, they'd called her non-essential. But as the company scrambled to contain the fallout, one thing was clear. The non-essential piece had just taken down the entire machine. 3 months later, Fintech Corp looked nothing like the empire it once pretended to be. The stock had tanked, investors fled, and Camille Porter's name had become shorthand for corporate fraud on every business blog and finance podcast in the city. She tried damage control, interviews, legal statements, even a tearful apology video. But none of it mattered. The system logs were airtight. Every lie she'd built was preserved in code, signed by her own digital fingerprint. Mary never said a word publicly. She didn't have to. The system she built told the story better than she ever could. Quietly, the board reached out to her. Not to apologize, but to beg for help. They needed someone to rebuild their data infrastructure, to make it trustworthy again. Mary listened, nodded politely, and declined. Instead, she launched her own consultancy, specializing in digital ethics and data transparency. Within 6 months, she had more clients than she could handle, including some of Fintech Corp's biggest competitors. The irony was delicious. One night, as she walked past the company's downtown headquarters, she looked up at the glowing logo that once symbolized her failure. Now it just looked hollow, like a monument to arrogance. She smiled faintly, not out of revenge, but resolution. She hadn't destroyed Camille. Camille had destroyed herself. Mary had simply built the truth into the system, and let it run its course. As she turned the corner, her phone buzzed. A new inquiry. Another corporation seeking ethical oversight. She opened the message, typed a single line in reply, and hit send. Happy to help, but remember, my systems never lie. And somewhere deep in the code, the machine that once betrayed her hummed quietly, loyal only to the woman who built it.